Her brother came home from a 6-month hiking trip, and something was wrong. Not obviously wrong, not horror movie wrong, just quietly, stomach-droppingly, inexplicably wrong. His voice had changed, his smell had changed, the way he moved through a room had changed, and every night since he walked back through that front door, she has been lying awake asking herself the same question. Is that still my brother in there? This is her account, word for word, exactly as she wrote it. I'm Harrow, and this is where it starts. Kevin was always the outdoors kid. Growing up, he would disappear into the woods behind our parents' property for hours at a time and come back perfectly content, like he had gone somewhere the rest of us couldn't follow. He said being out in nature brought him peace, the kind of peace he couldn't find anywhere else. So when everything in his life collapsed at once, the girlfriend gone, the job gone, the apartment gone, all within 6 weeks, he came home and he brought that emptiness with him. He moved back in with me and our parents, and for a while he just existed, barely eating, barely talking. That spark he always had, that quiet, steady thing behind his eyes, was just gone. I found him one night at the kitchen table at 2 a.m, picking apart a piece of cold pizza, and it was the first time in days I had seen him even look at food. I sat with him and I told him what I had been thinking for weeks, that maybe he needed to get back outside, take a hike, do a solo camping weekend, get back to the place that always made sense to him. He didn't say much. He took a bite of his pizza, squeezed my hand, told me he loved me, and went back to his room. I wasn't sure he had even really heard me. The next morning, he came downstairs and announced he was going to hike the entire Appalachian Trail. My mom was immediately hesitant. The Appalachian Trail isn't a weekend trip. It's over 2,000 miles of backcountry hiking that takes most people 5 to 7 months to complete. But Kevin was calm about it in a way he hadn't been about anything in weeks. He told her he knew himself well enough to know that sitting in his bedroom was doing more damage than any trail could. My dad backed him up. Kevin was a Boy Scout, an Eagle Scout, a lifelong camping enthusiast. This wasn't some impulse decision from someone who had never slept outside. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation, packing gear, registering the hike, buying a plane ticket to Georgia, where the trail begins. The night he left, our mom was falling apart, fussing over him, asking him over and over if he had everything. Kevin just kept reassuring her. He seemed genuinely excited for the first time in months. If I had known what was waiting for him out there on that trail, I would never have let him walk out that door. The first few weeks were fine. Kevin called when he said he would, right as he was starting his trip. He sent a photo to our family group chat. Purple-blue mountains behind him, his signature slightly off-center smirk, a thumbs up. The caption said, "Finally made it, love you guys, talk when I get better reception." And we all breathed a little easier. Over the days that followed, he sent photos and short videos, mostly his surroundings, trees, ridgelines, rivers, sunsets, occasionally a selfie with the caption, "Proof of life," that made my mom laugh even as she worried. The messages came in at least once a day at first, then once every few days. My dad said it was just spotty reception out on the trail, which made complete sense. From what we could piece together from the photos and the brief texts he was making good time. It was about a month and a half in when we realized it had been almost 2 full weeks without a single word from him. We called the authorities. We gave them everything we had, his registration, his last known location, the photos. But based on what they could see, Kevin had gone off-grid voluntarily, with full intent to be off-grid. Sending search and rescue into the backcountry would cost thousands of dollars and potentially pull resources from someone who actually needed them. He was a grown man with experience who had chosen to go into the wilderness. As far as the police were concerned, he wasn't missing. He was just unreachable. My mom was furious, but I couldn't entirely blame them either. There was no evidence anything was wrong. A few days after we filed the report, a text came through. Just a photo of a sunset and 4 words. "Everything is okay here." That became the new normal. Long stretches of silence, long enough for my mom to start spiraling, and then a blurry photo with a generic caption. "Look what I saw today. Wish you were here." Brief, impersonal, just enough to stop the panic. One night, I was going through all the photos he had sent from the beginning of the trip, and I noticed something. In the background of every single photo, from before we had contacted the police, there was a dark smudge. Blurry, shapeless, impossible to make out properly. Not an animal, not a shadow, not something caught moving across the lens, just a black shape, present in the background of every image, in slightly different positions each time. After the first photo he sent when we thought he was missing, the one that said everything was okay, the smudge was gone. Every photo after that, it was gone. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure I want to. Kevin came home without telling anyone. One evening during dinner, there was a sharp knock at the front door. My dad answered it, and there he was. His hair was long and stringy. He had grown a patchy beard across his jaw and cheeks. His lips were cracked and dry. His gums were coated in a layer of dried blood. He had lost at least 30 pounds, and he was not a large man to begin with. His clothes were caked in mud and debris. His shoes had been worn down to almost nothing at the sole. My mom made a sound I had never heard her make before and rushed to him. The smell hit me from across the room. It was like rotting meat, like something dead and bloated and left in the sun. My dad stood in the doorway, just staring at him. Kevin opened his mouth, and the only word that came out, in a voice that sounded like it hadn't been used in weeks, was, "Mom." And then he folded into her arms like his legs had stopped working. What came after that, the hugging, the tears, the very long shower, I'll spare you. But something didn't feel right from the moment he walked in. Kevin went to bed almost immediately. He barely looked at any of us. The next morning, he ate breakfast in a way that made my stomach turn. He was gulping food down in enormous mouthfuls, barely pausing between bites, not speaking, not looking up. My mom kept piling his plate, and he kept emptying it. By the time he stopped, he had eaten an entire loaf of bread, 2 full packages of bacon, and nearly 2 dozen eggs. Then he lumbered back to his bedroom without a word. For the next several days, that was the pattern. Eating enormous amounts of food, sleeping for hours, mumbling through conversations. When he finally started speaking in full sentences again, it came out stilted and unnatural, like someone working through a translation in their head before speaking. That was almost a month ago now. And things have not gotten better. They have gotten worse. His voice changed. It's still his voice. The same pitch, the same accent, but there is something underneath it now, like a second voice trying to harmonize just a half second behind, like 2 signals playing on top of each other. He moves differently too. He lumbers through the house with his knees locked, his body tilted forward, like he has forgotten how joints are supposed to work. He refuses to go to a doctor. And the smell, the rotting death smell, it has not gone away. No matter how long or how often he showers, it follows him everywhere. I could have kept telling myself it was the isolation, the weeks alone in the wilderness, the weight loss and the stress on his body. I could have kept making excuses, but then came last night. I couldn't sleep. That low, cold fear I'd been carrying since he came home was sitting in my chest and wouldn't let me rest. Sometime after midnight, I heard the back door creak open. I got out of bed and crept down the hallway. From where I stood, I could see through the kitchen window into the backyard. Kevin was on his hands and knees on the grass. His whole body was twitching. His neck, his shoulders, his head, like every muscle was spasming independently. He widened his stance, dropped lower, and drove his head down toward the ground and out of my line of sight. I thought he was having a seizure. I ran outside to help him. That is when I saw what he was doing. His face was buried inside the carcass of one of our neighbor's cats. The animal had been dead for at least a day, its body swollen, its eyes clouded and dull. Kevin's teeth were working through it methodically. Blood ran down his chin and dripped onto the grass. He reached into the cavity with both hands and stripped away pieces of muscle and tendon. Then he pressed his thumb into the cat's skull, popped out one of its eyes, and swallowed it whole. I ran. I locked the back door behind me. And that is when the smell hit me, pouring out from under the door of his bedroom. I opened it. Wrapped in his bedding were the bodies of at least 20 small animals, rabbits, mice, squirrels, all in various states of decay. I turned to run to my parents, and I saw him at the kitchen window, soaked in blood, head tilted at an angle that should not have been physically possible, the vertebrae in his neck straining visibly against the skin. He lunged at the glass, and I screamed. My parents found me in the hallway. My dad went outside, but Kevin was gone. The police came and suggested a parasite, a mental break, the psychological toll of weeks alone in the wilderness. They said these things happen to people who push themselves too far. I know they are wrong. Whatever that black smudge was in those early photos, it found him out there on that trail. It hunted him. And I think it was successful a long time before he ever knocked on our door. My brother went into those woods and he never came back out. But something did. Something wearing his face and his voice and his smell. And tonight, wherever it is, I am terrified it is coming home.